All right, so here, example 2, we are working backwards. We've got the graph, and we need to come up with the equation. So we are still going to use the same shortcut technique to figure out each of these things. Dabsy. Okay? Now, when we started graphing, we started with our center line. Looking at this graph, can you tell where the center line is? It's at 1. Two ways that you can figure that out. One, you could put it somewhere. Let's say you decided it was at 0 to start with. So let's say you started at 0, and then you had to say, is that right? Well, if I start at 0, if I move this line down to 0, how far away am I from the minimum? I'm 4 away from the minimum, but I'm 6 away from the maximum. And that doesn't make sense because the middle line should be right in the middle, should be the same distance to the maximum as it is to the minimum. So that tells us that we have to go up higher, and our d value is going to be 1. Once you found your d value, once you found that center line, what is our amplitude? 5. Because the distance from that center line either to the maximum or the minimum is going to be 5. Now, our b value helped us find our period. We know that we've got a formula that says our period is 2 pi over the b value. If we rearrange this, we could solve for b, and rearranging that formula tells us that our b value is 2 pi over our period. So looking at this, what is the period of this function? How long does it take to repeat itself? Well, when figuring out how long it takes to repeat itself, you need a starting point. You could either, in this case, I might say start in the center line going down, and then 1 full period would be when it gets up to there. That would be one way to figure out the period. Another way to figure out the period is to start at a minimum and then find out how long it takes to get to another minimum. So if we were starting at the minimum, and in this case with this graph, how much do each of these lines represent? Does it make sense that one of these lines here is pi over 12? Because two of the lines is pi over 6. So now if I just count from one minimum to the next, how many lines do I have to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my period in this question is 8 pi over 12s, because one of those lines was pi over 12. And if you have to go 8 to get from minimum to minimum, then the period is going to be 8 pi over 12. If we go to figure out our b value, since our b value is 2 pi divided by our period, how do we figure that out? How do we do 2 pi divided by 8 pi divided by 12? That's right, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. And we get 3. Pi's will cancel out. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So now we know our b value is 3. So in the same way that we graph it, we can, I don't know if you call it ungraphing it, but look at the graph and figure out what your d, your a, and your b value are. And then once you've found your d, your a, and your b value, here we want to find a graph, and it says in terms of sine. Where does sine start? In the middle, going up. Where's the first place that we have in the middle going up? Right there. How much of a shift is that? It's been shifted 3, which is 3 pi over 12. It's it's been shifted 3 pi over 12 to the right. You could reduce that to pi over 4 if you wanted to. But now you can write an equation, and for our equation, it's going to be y equals, our a value is 5, sine, our b value is 3, factored out, 3 pi over 12 to the right would be minus 3 pi over 12. So we write inside in factored form, and our d value plus 1. So that's how we can get the equation. All right, I'd like you to try those questions 4 to 7.